Welcome to the Wayward Writers Podcast. We're excited to have you with us today as we chat with author Mia Brody about her marketing strategies. Stephanie, could you tell us a little more about Mia,
I'd
please?
be happy to. Mia Brody is a romance author with over 50 books published. She's best known for Courage County, a fictional town where alpha heroes with hearts of gold fall in love with curvy women. She often writes characters that are disabled or chronically ill or neurodivergent. Her own struggles with muscular dystrophy and anxiety inspire many of her stories. She's passionate about showing readers that happily ever after is possible for everyone. I love that so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We like the happily ever afters, don't we?
Close as we can get.
I also love that your writing is inspired by your real life. Do you enjoy writing? Is it your passion?
Absolutely. I've been writing since I was a kid, and I didn't really see, as I got older, I didn't really see a way to necessarily make a living from it.
Yeah.
So I ended up going into marketing. And in between the marketing work I was doing for other people, I was writing my own fiction stories. And I realized one day when I was ghostwriting for someone, they were a nonfiction writer and they were making a lot more money than I was, and they were hitting best-selling lists. And I pulled open their project one day because I bought a finished copy of the project. So I would always take the finished product and I would compare it to what I had actually written so that I could learn to become a better writer and a better marketer. And I was horrified when I opened the product because I thought, this person is an amazing writer. They've changed everything I said. And then I went back to my original and all they had done was add a comma.
Oh.
That was it. And that was the day I was like, oh my goodness, I'm good enough to be doing this too. And I'm good enough to make a living doing it too. And that was just like the catalyst.
That's awesome. Wow, how wonderful. What a great experience.
It really was.
Well, you seem to be very successful as an author, and I'm sure a lot of that is due to your excellent craft, or maybe the alpha males in your manuscripts.
The alpha males could be good.
But
I like alpha.
how much of your success do you think depends on your marketing plan?
A lot of it. And I'm not going to lie, before I write the book, I'm
Oh,
marketing.
really?
And what I mean by that, yes, everything I do is actually marketing.
Okay.
What I do, before I started, I had read, I discovered Hope Ford and Frankie Love, and they were writing shorter books, about 15, 20K words each, and publishing them and making full-time living. And I thought, I could do that. So when I got my first idea for one of these books, the short books, what I did was I went to the top 100 list on Amazon in that subgenre. And I actually started and I wrote down the number of covers that had a couple. I wrote down the number of covers that I saw with shirtless male. I wrote down the number of covers I saw with the male that was clothed by himself and then a female by herself. And I compared all of that. And I said, okay, so shirtless male or clothed male is going to sell best. And so I made that decision before I ever even wrote the book.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And everything I did, I just studied the keywords before I wrote the book. And then I wrote the book and the blurb and all of that. So I do all of this pre-marketing tasks before I write the book.
That's fascinating.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, really brilliant.
So you're doing it so different than most authors do. Most authors are like, I've got this story, and then, oh my gosh, how do I sell it? Yeah. So this is really interesting to me. So can you tell us some of the components besides that you're doing this from the front end once you've written your story so that you're matching those keywords and everything, then what else are you doing?
So what I do is I decide on the cover. For example, if I were writing an alien romance, I would pull up the top 100 in the alien romance category on Amazon. And I would compare them. Okay, how many of these sexy aliens that are bare-chested, how many of them have tattoos? How many of them have beards? What skin tone? Are they favoring blues, purples, pinks? What colors are the aliens favoring for that? I'm writing all this down, taking extensive notes because I'm going to pass that on to a cover designer. I will not design the cover. That would be a nightmare. But I will pass all of those notes on to a cover designer. And then what I'll do is I'll sit down and I'll write out the tropes I want to feature in the story and the keywords. And I will actually pull up Publisher's Rocket, which pulls data from people are searching on Amazon. Amazon controls about 80% of ebook
Mm-hmm.
sales, which is why I use Publisher's Rocket, because it pulls the ebook ones. And that's from Dave Chesson of
Yep.
Kindlepreneur. He does Publisher's Rocket. So I pull up Publisher's Rocket and I begin to pit the keywords and the tropes against each other. And I might have dozens of ideas here, tropes and keywords. And I begin pitting them against each other to find what tropes are selling best and what ideas appeal to me. I'll give you an example. I kept using the term dual virgins, but when I started digging deeper into it, because dual virgins sells in my subgenre, when I began doing deeper into it, I found that double virgins actually is a better keyword than dual
Okay.
virgins. But I wouldn't have known that without the keyword research.
Oh, okay.
So then the book sells better because now I know the keyword to use. I
Interesting.
know what people are actually searching for versus how I would search for it. And that's really
Right.
important
Yeah.
when you're doing keywords and you're doing blurbs, because there are certain ways I would phrase something. Like I think I had my dad's best friend as one of my tropes, and I was typing in my father's best friend. No, when I actually looked at the keywords, it was dad's best friend is selling better. So I said, okay, then I changed it in the blurb and I made sure that everything aligned with what other people are searching for. Because it's not about me as the writer, it's about the readers and what they're looking for.
For example, on your dad's best friend, or anything that you're looking for the keywords for, the genres that you write in romance, but it sounds like you cover a lot of different areas, but you're searching. So how do you make that decision about which book you're going to write? If you're researching in a genre, do you pick the genre and then do the research, or how are you doing that?
So I typically have a basic idea that is, I consider it moldable.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and say, okay, I want to write a best friend's romance. And then I start looking, okay, but is childhood best friend's romance going to sell better, or is it going to sell better if they met as their teens? And then I look, okay, or is it high school sweethearts? Will that sell better? So I'm looking at hitting all those keywords against it because I have a brief idea of the characters and where I want to go with the story, but I'm willing to mold it to the market.
That makes
Oh,
sense.
got it.
I do it in the early stages because I meet a lot of writers that do it backwards. They write a book and then they try to mold it to the market. And you're a lot more successful most of the time if you, in the early planning stages, try to mold it to the market. Then by the time you finish the first draft, you have something that was at least possibly sellable. But obviously there are no guarantees.
This is so interesting. Does this affect then what platforms you buy ads for?
So honestly, I have Amazon ads and Facebook ads running. Facebook ads get the bulk of my attention. That's what they've done really well for me. I have friends in the romance genre who cannot get Facebook ads to work and swear by Amazon ads. So that's one of those areas where I think it's trial and error depending on your subgenre. Maybe mystery and suspense do better on Amazon ads versus Facebook ads, and you're not going to know that until you start testing it out. Unfortunately, some of these we have to learn as we go.
Right. Do you do any other kind of things like book bubs or anything else, or is that's just strictly it?
So what I do for my marketing is, this is actually popular, and the subgenre I'm in is, we call it Insta Love. And that's what we frequently call it. And I'm actually an admin for a group called Writing Insta Love. So we call it Insta Love. And these are just short romances, about 15, 20K usually.
Wow.
And what's frequently done in the genre is rapid release. Sometimes a book every week or every 2 weeks. And most people don't realize it's actually its own marketing strategy because you're releasing so frequently to people. And we're talking about readers when you're talking these short books in the Insta Love. You're talking about readers that will read sometimes 20 or 50 of these short reads a month. So they are constantly hungry for new material. So if you can write well and write fast and write to market, you can make some good money. So I always encourage people, if they can write fast and they can write well, to give rapid release a try, because that can be its own strategy in and of itself. And that is what I actually use to establish my business. There is, and obviously it's not always a guarantee, but there's an idea within the writing world, and you ladies are probably familiar with it, of making 20 books. You can turn that to about 50K a year, or basically, depending on where you live, that's possibly a full-time living. Short reads, when you're talking 15 to 20K books, that's closer to 30 books. Once you've hit 30 books, you should be on your way to making a full-time living. If you're not, there's probably a branding problem. It's usually not the writing. I just want to put that out there. But so I knew when I hit 25 books that I was well on my way to hitting full time based on my income. I was seeing about $3,000 a month at that point. I had 25 books out. It took me about a year, just constantly pushing books out. And it was
do you write the books? Do you write 5 books and then release 5, or are you just constant, like I'm writing a book and releasing it and writing and releasing, or is it some combination?
So what you're talking about the first way, writing 5 books and then releasing 5 books, that's the smart way to do it. Mia Brody does not do it the smart way. Put that out there. That is what I would recommend people do. I write one book and then I just push it out there. And then I write the next book and I push it out there. I think that I would probably get nervous if I kept holding on to books and I think I'd probably eventually talk myself out of releasing them. So as soon as I write it, I try to make sure that I'm pushing it out the door. Move on to the next one. But your way would be much smarter.
If your way is working, then it's not necessarily smarter. It's just very interesting. You did touch on the fact that maybe mystery might be an Amazon ad. What about sci-fi? Do you know where they go, or is it just trial and error to try and figure that out?
What I would recommend is that first and foremost that you're part of a writing group of people that are actively publishing in your genre, whatever genre it is, because you're going to get the best information there. If you join a group, I can just guess whether or not Facebook ads are going to do well for mystery writers, but I honestly can't tell you. However, if you're part of a group for mystery writers and these people are consistently making 5 figures a month and all of them are running Facebook ads, maybe I should run Facebook ads.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for the next successful person in my industry, like who's above me as far as earnings and reads and all that, because I want to find out and figure out what are they doing that I'm not doing? What am I leaving on the table?
Okay, so let's say you make a Facebook ad or a Amazon ad. How do you know when those ads are being successful for you? Like, how do you know that the sales are coming from that particular ad or ad run?
So ideally, when you start the ads, what I would do is I would not add any new marketing to the mix. So for example, I wouldn't go on a whole bunch of podcasts at the same time I start a new Amazon ad set, because then where did the uptick come from? I don't know. As far as knowing if the ad is successful, I would look for the break-even point, and everybody knows, you're going to know where that is. If I spend $20 in ads and I sell $20 worth of books, I've broken even. I haven't lost anything, but I haven't gained anything. And that's the really important thing when you're dealing with ads, when you're dealing with any marketing venture, is you're just looking it as data. I think people are writers, especially because we're such creatives and we feel everything very deeply. We assign a lot deeper meaning to it. And it's all just data. It's not about, oh, I succeeded at this and I failed at that. It's just data. It's just numbers. Numbers don't really care. They just don't. You just write it down. Okay, so I sold 10 books when I started a new ad, and then I sold 10 books the next day and 10 books the next day. I think this is making a difference. And we just write that down as data. Or we go, my sales are actually tanking. What's going on here? And maybe we tweak the ad and make it slightly stronger. That said, I will be totally honest with you and say that if you have not written a book to market, the cover's not right, the blurb's not right, it doesn't matter how amazing your ad is, you're still going to have trouble converting once people actually hit the book sales page.
Right.
So it's important to write to market to start with, or you're just throwing money away when it comes to ads. And Chris Fox has an excellent book called Write to Market, in which he teaches a lot of all of this. And it's only like 100 pages, so it's super quick read. I love Chris Fox, so fantastic. I was about to publish a series of rockstar romances, and I read Write to Market by Chris Fox. And he saved me so much heartache, because he was like, you need to find the bestseller list on Amazon for your genre. He said, and read through it. And so I started, and within a book or two, I was like, I have not written to market at all. And so that was a huge wake-up call. And I was so grateful for that book, because I scrapped everything and started over, because I realized upon reading the genre, I didn't want to write in the genre. And what I had written wasn't really to market. So I pulled out what I did like about it. Well, I had written, my characters were more from a small town, and it was more focused on the small town hijinks. So I'm like going back going, okay, so we need to go back and make more small town romances. And so it was hugely helpful. Write to Market by Chris Fox. Strongly recommend that book.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
We will make sure that's in our show notes. What other resources like that have helped you along the way to figure out how to navigate all of this?
To navigate all this, again, being part of a writing group with fellow authors in the genre is invaluable. What I recommend doing is you just start researching and you find who is consistently hitting the best selling lists in your genre, okay, in the top 100. And for me at the time, that was Hope Ford and Frankie Love, and they're still on the lists, but Nicole Rose. So I went through and I began following them. I figured out what groups they were part of and I joined those groups. I friended them on Facebook and I hung out with them and I started to pay attention. Okay, what are they doing? How are they marketing? Are they sending newsletters? Are they doing ads? What are they doing? And then applying that to my brand and my books. So as long as you can find a successful person ahead of you, they'll show you the way if you pay attention to the steps they're taking. And they won't always tell you that. And it's just because most people don't have the time to mentor every single writer that comes behind them. That's all. Most writers are very nice people. But what you do is you just start paying attention to what they're doing. And you just begin following along with that.
So a little kind cyber stalking involved there, huh? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. And I've had people pop into my inbox and say, I was stalking you and I saw you doing this with your marketing. How's that working? And I'll answer and be like, okay, this is working. This is not working. And just most people are very kind and will answer a question or two. But for the main part, just if you find successful people in your genre, just follow them. Figure out what they're doing. Take notes on all of it. And you don't have to do it. I found a really successful author that was doing some really cool stuff with video marketing. And she was amazing, but I watched it and said, okay, that's not the type of video marketing I want to do. So I scratched through that, but I took a note that she was doing it. Because not everything you see as far as their marketing is going to apply to you or your brand. It's not always going to be a good fit. You don't have to do everything, and you don't have to do what everybody else is doing. Just find some things that work for you and your brand.
What about affiliate marketing? Have you used that, and does it help?
I do use affiliate marketing. It adds a few $100s extra a month to my earnings. I am an affiliate for Amazon and for Apple. I'm not sure if Barnes & Noble has a program. I meant to look into that, actually. So I do that as far as affiliate marketing. And when I share my links, I use Genius Link, basically, and put all of my central links into one place. And I have it pull my Amazon link. So if somebody clicks through, they're automatically an affiliate on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
And same with Apple.
Wow.
So it's credited to me. So if somebody buys my book from my link, I get a little extra few cents off of it. Somebody actually, it was cool because somebody put like really expensive, like $200 blanket in the cart at the same time they bought my book. So I got like a few dollars off of that, and that's cool. And of course, it doesn't change the price. It does not change the price for the consumer. And of course, you have to be honest and upfront that you will get a commission if they click your links. You want to play by the FTC rules.
Interesting.
Cool. So you mentioned having a newsletter. Do you do a newsletter, and do you have any tips for building a newsletter and a following for that newsletter?
We have a newsletter. It's a baby newsletter. Only got 9K subscribers. A baby newsletter. But absolutely love newsletters. I was big on email marketing back when I was doing marketing for clients and stuff. So love email marketing. Huge believer in it. One thing that I have done and that has worked really well in my genre, I don't know if this works well in other genres, like for example, mystery, sci-fi. But what I do is at the end of my books, I say, hey, if you want a bonus scene with the couple 10 years in the future, 5 years in the future, come click over to my newsletter. And they sign up for my newsletter and it automatically sends them a link to my bonus scene. And I have 20 or 30 bonus scenes now on my website, and you can just go through and read them. And when I do the bonus scene on my website, I make sure to put a picture of the book it's from, and I put a link to the book, because it's really hard to keep anything on the web truly private, which means somebody's probably going to stumble across the link that hasn't actually read the book. And that's totally cool. But if they start reading it and like the bonus scene, I want them to go, hey, here's the book. Here's where you can go find it. Yeah. And then at the end of the bonus scene, I have a link to the next book in series. So anybody that does read the book scene is invited then to also go pre-order the next book in series. And that's another part of my marketing, is I write so much in series and so much in universe.
That's wonderful.
So how do you've got a lot going on, because you've got to balance your writing, marketing, and everything. How do you do, what's your time look like?
So Mia rises at 4 a.m. to do yoga, and her life is just perfect. And no,
I hope not.
most times I'm running with my hair on fire at any given time. I'm sometimes writing up till deadline. When you do more frequent releases, when you're doing all your own marketing, there is a fair amount of my hair's on fire. I'm trying to get more organized. I've got project management software now. I'm using Trello to try to organize my marketing tasks. What you should do if you're smart is at the beginning of the month, or actually at the end of the previous month, you lay out all the marketing tasks you need to do and you schedule them and all of that. I'm a little chaotic right now, but that's what you should do.
So how much time is actually spent if you're looking at writing versus marketing, which is heavier for you?
That's a good question. I am heavier into marketing this year. The past 2 years were foundational years where I was building my backlist. The secret to becoming an author that earns a full-time living is that you need to have a significant backlist. That's typically how most authors earn. So you have to have a significant backlist, which means you spend a lot of time in the early years writing. However, as you hit a point where you're trying to scale your income, there comes a point where you can't just keep spinning out books. So at that point, you focus more on the marketing. So that's where I am this year. I'll spend a year or two heavy in the marketing. And then when I hit these goals and where I want to be with that, I'll go back into the writing cave for a couple of years. And I'll still, of course, continue to turn out books over the next couple of years. I'm not going to stop writing. I just will have less time for writing. But foundational years, when you're building your backlist, you're going to spend a lot more time writing. And then you'll spend more time marketing for a little while and then more time writing. And it's just kind of these cycles that kind of come and go, these seasons in your career, as it were.
I'm very impressed and overwhelmed at the same time.
I told someone the other day, I said, if it's not on fire, it's probably not catching my attention. You're really just going to have to tug on my sleeve to get my attention. But I told that to somebody, one of my team members. I'm like, I'm sorry. I said, if it's not on fire, I'm not going to notice it.
Do you have a team, or is there more than just you doing this, or you have an editor or not? No. Okay. You're the editor too. Okay. Wow.
So whether or not you should be the editor of your own work, that's one of those. I don't think there's anything wrong with being the editor of your own work. It's one of those areas where you have to know if you're strong enough to do it or not.
Okay.
There are definitely writers that are strong enough to do it without an editor, and there are ones that are not. And you have to be really gut level honest, because I have seen people that are fantastic writers, but they're not great editors, publish books and get raked over the coals. So it's one of those things where I caution you really have to be gut level honest with yourself about whether or not you can be a decent editor of your own work.
I would think that your reviews would also be an indicator, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Occasionally I'll get flagged on continuity error, but usually not. I'm a bit detail obsessive. So I will go over my work until I am sick of the book. And then when I'm sick of the book, I will put on headphones, hit the narration button in Word, and make myself listen to it. Because then I hear words I left out and all this other stuff. And then I'll do passes in Grammarly. So it sounds like I'm just pushing out something as soon as I write it, and that's not true. I'm going over it multiple times. I'm listening to it repeatedly. I'm pulling up Grammarly. I'm pulling up the word editor. Sometimes I put it through things like Pro Writing Aid, all of that. Mm-hmm. So it's not just me. I'm using other tools. I have 2 personal assistants. I started working with a consultant, and we need to grow to include a CPA soon.
That's exciting.
Somebody needs to be looking at these numbers besides me. That is exciting. Yeah. So if you're at the point where you need a team, that is something absolutely worth celebrating. And I encourage writers to get a team as they're able to. I compare it very much to being an airplane pilot, right? You are responsible for filing the flight plan and getting to the destination. And in the beginning, it's very common to be baggage claim, loading the bags, handing out peanuts, comforting toddlers, that sort of stuff. And that's all very valuable work. And in the beginning stages, when you're first starting your career, it's common to have to do everything. But as you begin to grow, you need more executive level function, basically. And you can't do that if you're stopping and doing all the other tasks too. So you have to become the executive at some point. And when you hit that point, you got to bring on team members because they got to be helping you handling things. So just my thoughts and theories on that.
Yeah. Congratulations that you have a team. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. They are amazing, and they help me and keep me flowing and everything going smoothly. So Mia Brody is not just one person,
You're a brand name now.
right? I actually am in the process of getting the LLC license and all of that. So it's just,
Wow,
Right.
that has
that's
also been eye
wonderful.
opening.
Yeah. So I have a quick question too. Can you explain a little bit about the keywords and metadata and how you find those things?
So what I'm doing, and again, this is early stages where I just have a brief flicker of an idea and some characters in my head. So I'm not totally committed to the idea because what I find on the keywords and the researching is definitely going to make a difference. But I look through the top 100 on Amazon in your subgenre for the covers and all that. But I'm
Uh-huh.
also paying attention to patterns I'm seeing in tropes. So, for example, if of those 100 books, I'm seeing 10 to 15 are single dads, I'm going to note that down to myself and be like, maybe I should make him a single dad.
So
Or
this is
maybe I can work
more
in someone in the future in the series.
so this is less you looking at
Hmm?
metadata and more you just reading blurb after blurb and just writing down what they're about.
What I'm doing is I'm looking for patterns in these 100 books.
Uh-huh.
So I'm always looking for patterns. I do the same thing with covers. And then I take it and put it in Publisher's Rocket after that to confirm, or because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes one writer writes on a topic and several others get excited and also write on a topic. So I'm pulling it out and seeing, okay, is there enough search interest actually in these topics? And two, there does come a point where someone in the genre sometimes can become enough of a name where they can write on whatever trope they want and their readers will follow them. So
Right.
that also makes a difference. So I'm researching it to see if there's enough interest. And again, I'm pitting against keywords. Like I might do single dad versus single father, see which one. Then I might pull it up and I might say, okay, single dad with a baby. Now that's a really good keyword. And I might go, okay, so he's going to have a baby. He's not going to have a toddler or a teenager. It's going to be a baby. And then I'll go, okay, can I work a nanny in? And then I'll go, okay, let me see, is there any interest for a nanny romance? And then if I see there is, I'll go with that. And if I see, there's not quite enough interest, I'll go, okay, what can I do instead? I start so much with the trope. And every genre, not just romance, every genre has their tropes. Unless we're talking about literary fiction. Every commercialized fiction book should have tropes. We should be using tropes. Readers love tropes, they help sell our books. But I believe minimum 2 to 5 tropes per book. Minimum.
Oh, that's right.
They attract people. They come. Yeah, but when you do so many tropes and you're layering them, because it creates so much depth, I think, to the books when you're layering multiple tropes together. So I'm doing 2 to 5 tropes per book. And for example, I had a cowboy who needed a mail order bride to claim his grandfather's land. The cowboy needed the mail order bride, and she was running from a cult. So we have woman in jeopardy, we have marriage of convenience, mail order bride, we have cowboy. So we're putting multiple tropes together. And obviously, you want to read a lot if you're going to use a trope so that you're familiar with how to properly execute it.
That is a lot of
Oh
layering.
my goodness.
Yeah.
But
But
it
to me, it's fun.
I was going to say it just gives you so much to work with too though.
It does. It does. And then you have a lot of fun. There's so much then you can explore within the story. And obviously, because I'm a romance writer, I'm using Romancing the Beat by Gwen Hayes.
Okay.
She basically breaks down the formula of how to write romance books because there is a formula to it. Most commercialized fiction does have a formula. Most of it.
Yeah.
So I basically took her formula for Romancing the Beat and I condensed it down for 20K books because obviously I've got to give a little with 20K versus 50 or 60K. So I condensed it down, and after I've gotten my tropes and my keywords and written my blurb, then I fill out an outline using the beats so it's a satisfying romance.
So you hit all of the beats within that word count.
Yes. I picked 9 or 10 of the beats.
Okay.
Like the meet cute. Obviously, we don't want to sacrifice that. We have a black moment. My friend Fern Fraser sometimes calls it the gray moment. Because in the short Insta-Love books, there's not always time for a really deep, dark black moment. And they're not going to be broken up for 2 months or 2 years or anything.
Right.
It's going to be a day or two. So, yeah, that's what I do. And then after I finish the outline, I get to write the book. And that's the best part.
I love it.